Creating consistent content on social media can be a real challenge that authorpreneurs face. If you want to grow your impact and your income online, there are 4 content cadences I recommend you follow, and I'll share them in this video. Hey there, it's Brian Dixon, helping you build a life of impact and income as an authorpreneur. And one of the most important things that you can do is have a clear schedule for your content. Instead of haphazardly and randomly creating content, feeling like you're constantly putting out fires, what if you were to have a clear content cadence, something that actually fit your lifestyle and the kind of life that you want to live? So how do you do that? How do you create consistent content that's nurturing your audience, that's inviting strangers to become visitors and moving them up your value ladder? Well, I recommend 4 cadences of your content. The first one is daily, so that you're posting daily. You want your audience to hear from you every day, and there's 2 ways for them to hear from you. One of them is through your stories, and one of them is your posts. Now let's start with posts. Posts are probably what you're most familiar with. This is posting on Instagram or posting on Facebook. Now you might be wondering, Brian, how do I create a post every single day? Well, that's where we head over to our stories. I love the concept, document, don't create. In other words, if you're living the life of an authorpreneur, if you are coaching clients, if you're leading your member community, you're launching your course, you're writing your next book, you have a lot of content that's already just part of your life. So what if instead of sitting in front of the blank screen of death, trying to think of what am I gonna say today, instead, you just explain what you just did 5 minutes ago. And my favorite way to do that is through my stories. So I basically document my day. And that's a great place to start. Document your day. What time did you wake up this morning? What did you read this morning? What have you been thinking about today? Just document that inside of your stories. Now, stories only last for about 24 hours, and so it's okay to mess up because it's not gonna be there very long. It's a great place to test out your content because the people that watch your stories more likely than not are already people that follow you and want to learn more about you. Now, as you're sharing your life and what your life looks like through your stories, what will happen over the course of the day is you'll have an idea for content. Something that you just read, something that you just watched, something that you just wrote, and that is the perfect fodder for content. I believe that a book well written comes from a life well lived. So as you're living your best life, as you're living every day, sharing your stories of your life, at least once a day, you're gonna have something worthwhile to say. And that's what you write inside of your post. Your post basically is the culmination of something you've been thinking about all day that you can share out to your audience. Now, a post would go on Facebook and Instagram, maybe on TikTok or Twitter or LinkedIn or YouTube, but generally I stick to Facebook and Instagram for my daily posts. Now, generally I want my posts to fit in one of my 3 content buckets, which we talk about content buckets in another video. And you just want to make sure that it fits your character and your style and your overall vision of the world. So as you do that, my favorite way to write a post is to say, dear, and then insert the name of your ideal reader. So dear Ella, and then you write your post to her, and then before you post it, you take away the dear Ella. So it simply starts the post as if you're already in the middle of a conversation with a friend. Now, if you want to fancy up your post a little bit, of course, you can add a picture, and the best picture is something that just happened in your life. So if you just read something really interesting that you want to share, well, take a picture of your reading corner, take a picture of the front cover of the book, take a picture of you reading the book, take a picture of your dog sitting next to you as you're reading your book. So that's your daily posts. Let's talk about your next content cadence. Your next content cadence is weekly. So what do you produce on a weekly basis? Yes, I said produce instead of write because we're talking about producing a weekly show. This is a longer form piece of content that serves as a pillar in your overall content framework. A weekly show might be an audio-based podcast or a YouTube channel where you're sharing a weekly video. For those of you that work at a church, this might be your weekly sermon. You could call that your weekly show, but it's something that you prepare for. It's something that you build your content. You create an outline. You might even put slides together. You might have a guest on your show, and this is something that you produce on a weekly basis. Now, if this sounds overwhelming or maybe a little too much, what I recommend is that you start with an interview-based show. So you don't actually have to create all the content yourself on a weekly basis. You simply have a conversation with somebody else. Instead of creating the content yourself, have a conversation with someone else. Now, over time, your show will grow. This is where people subscribe to your podcast or to your YouTube channel. And over time, those followers start to grow. And this becomes the ongoing conversation you're having with your audience. Your weekly show really serves as the pillar of your content strategy and is a great place to invite people to subscribe or to get on your email list. Which leads us to our third content cadence, and this is your monthly cadence. So what are you doing on a monthly basis? Well, I highly recommend that once a month you have a launch. That's right, a promotion, a special, an invitation for people to go deeper, to do business with you on a monthly basis. Now, my favorite way to have a launch is to offer a live webinar. This is a live 90-minute training where I walk through about 100 slides, give some great teaching, and make a call to action at the end of the webinar. So for example, once a month, I host a webinar telling people all about Hope Books and why Hope Books can help you write and publish your book in 1 year or less. I'm not having that webinar every single day or every week. It's only once a month, so it feels really special, and it's a great opportunity to invite people to the party. Come to the launch that we're having once a month. Which leads to our fourth content cadence, and that is our annual cadence or our yearly cadence. So what are you doing on an annual basis to bring your audience together, to gather the scattered? This is where I would recommend you host an event. That's right, an event. We're talking about a weekend retreat, a workshop, a boot camp, or my favorite, a conference. Yes, you can host your own conference. Now, I know that might sound a little overwhelming, and that's why we do it once a year. Here's what's really cool. You can spend all year talking about your conference, inviting people to your conference, having people sign up for your conference, and there's nothing quite like gathering together all your audience members in one location. And my favorite part about hosting a conference, it's the perfect opportunity to offer an invitation to go deeper, whether that means joining your mastermind or signing up for your highest ticket program that you have. Now, we talk more about conferences in other videos, but my quick conference hack is never provide the food and never provide the lodging. So instead, what you can do is put your conference somewhere local where you can have people go out to local restaurants at the lunch break and at the dinner break. And you recommend hotels in the area, but you don't host the conference at the hotel. Instead, what if you partnered with a church or maybe a school or maybe a retreat center or some other sort of office complex where you could have the conference instead of at a hotel? Too many people I know have lost money hosting their conference at a hotel, where a church is a great viable option for hosting your conference. And in fact, that's exactly what I do. On an annual basis, we host our Hope Story Conference every January, and we love partnering with churches. It's a great location because if you think about it, they already have their weekly show, they already have their weekly big service, and our conference is kind of like a big service. So all the lighting and the sound and the stage and the seating and the parking, everything is already taken care of because that's what churches do. So let's recap. We have 4 content cadences to help you create more consistent content to nurture your audience. Number 1 is our daily posts. This is where we document, we don't create. We share our life and what we're thinking about right now. Number 2 is our weekly cadence, and this is where we create our weekly show. And ideally, I recommend that you interview instead of creating your own original content for your weekly show. This could be your podcast or your YouTube channel. Number 3, your monthly cadence. And this is where I recommend that you host a launch, whether it's a live webinar, a video series, or even an online summit. Have some sort of way to invite people to go deeper and to sign up for one of your products or your programs on a monthly basis. And number 4, your annual content cadence. And this is where you have your event, your workshop, your retreat, your boot camp, or even your conference. Listen, your message matters, and the way to connect to more of your audience is by creating consistent content. So I hope that these 4 content cadences have inspired and encouraged you to get your content going so you can help your audience move forward.